Hey there, I'm Joey from EDHREC. Everyone has a favorite or signature deck, a thing that they're most well known for. Like Kaiba with Blue Eyes White Dragon or Yugi with Dark Magician, one of the coolest things about the Commander format is that it gives each of us the chance to express ourselves with a specific style, archetype, or unique legend. And since I work for EDHREC and EDHREC is all about compiling decks, well, it just made good sense for there to be a convenient list for people to be able to check out some folks and the stuff that those folks love to play all in one spot. Like the number of cards in a Commander deck, I've assembled 100 of them. 100 decks from 100 of your favorite creators. Wherever possible, links to those creators and their associated deck lists will be in the video description down below. Definitely give that a look. But also keep in mind that not everyone has the exact same online presences. Some folks may exist across various social platforms, some might be a bit more private, and not everyone has their deck lists posted online either. I'll also say that I am 100% going to miss people. There are a lot of Magic folks out there. There's no way that this list can be comprehensive. And I'm also, of course, largely sticking to a Commander-specific oeuvre as well. So basically, feel free to sound off in the comments below about any other creators that you enjoy if you happen to not see them here. And you might as well like and subscribe while you're down there too. I mean, that's just an efficient 2-for-1. You can't pass up on value like that. Also, this list isn't in any specific order either. Please don't take the order as some kind of ranking or tier list. That's not the case at all. Creators of all sizes are spread across the entire list. This is simply a list of your favorites. 100 Magic folks, 100 decks. So sit back, consider giving some of these amazing creators a follow, and please enjoy. I'll start off with the thing that inspired this video, Sheldon Menery's You Did This to Yourself deck. I just recently received my secret layer celebrating Sheldon with cards and art he helped to select, and for him to be immortalized in cards he helped design or that he was well known for is so cool. Ruhan was his commander for that wildly cool deck, which used Aikido-style cards to turn any action an enemy takes into their very own downfall. Cheers to you, Sheldon. Miss you every day. I'll also quickly mention our decks from your hosts here on the EDHREC YouTube channel. I'm most known for my Babala Saga, or as I like to call her, my baby lasagna. She's a puzzle every turn. How can I find 3 types to eat up so that I can get that amazing payoff? I love giving things multiple card types, sacrificing stuff but making my opponents hurt for it, and of course, doing lots and lots of necromancy. Dana, our resident hipster, has been playing Reki the History of Kamigawa for years, and has even fully foiled out his deck, so it's quite dazzling when his endless supply of legends crushes you underfoot. Honestly, this deck functions more like a mono-green storm list. You better watch out for this one. Matt Morgan, meanwhile, loves all things big and stompy, and Raga Draga Gorguts Boss is his most well-known list. In it, he uses tons of Eldrazi Spawn and Scion Makers, because those tokens technically have mana abilities, giving him tons of pump from Raga Draga, and some very clever colorless aggro and mid-combat tricky sacrifice moves. All mana, all pain, all aggro, all the time. Let's go to Commander at Home next. Rules Committee member Olivia Gobert-Hicks is of course known for Breya-ing the house down. I'll admit I also associate Olivia with 2 other hilarious deck lists, the Omenkeel, aka the USS Dogwater, and also her Atraxa Enchantress, where she's intentionally trying to deck herself out and lose the game before anyone else can stop her. It's quite funny, but to just pick one, yeah, Breya's the real gem for this jeweler. Olivia's obviously cosplayed as Breya, and her deck is blinged out to the nines. There's a reason she calls this one her favorite. Also of Commander at Home, Brian Kibler loves all things doggo, naturally, and loves Stompy Naya too, but let's be real, it's the Dragon for him. Simple, straightforward, and devastatingly powerful dragons. Need I say anything more? Related to Commander at Home, there's also Elder Dragon Hijinks, and Ailey, aka Alias V, is one of the magnificent masterminds behind both of these amazing shows. I asked her about her favorite deck, and she said right now it's her Queza Augur of Agony's list. Draw cards to whittle opponents down bit by bit, or all at once. Win the game just by drawing cards? I totally see the appeal. Alright, I can't get too far into this list without mentioning probably the most famous signature deck in all of EDH, Graham Stark's Bear Force 1 deck, led by Ayula Queen Among Bears. This man is so famous for bears, wielding this list to victory in the most popular Game Nights episode ever. Kudos, Graham. Well, not Kudo, that's a different bear, but you know what I mean. Speaking of folks from Loading Ready Run, Kathleen DeVere, our current reigning Game Nights Live champion, is famous for playing all things black, and right now if you play some Commander with her, you're most likely to encounter her wielding either Una with an army of fairies, or Drana and a horde of mono-black vampires, currently her most frequently played EDH deck. And honestly, either one sounds pretty scary. There are plenty of other great LRR folks too. Ben Ulmer is currently known for a Soulfeme Dragon Hordes deck, which sounds absolutely gnarly. Ben Wheeler is known for Ben Aki Hermit, though I'll shout out his Eutropia deck that gives your creatures flying, all the better to shoot them out of the sky. Thank you for having them, it was great to be there. Serge Jaeger, the premier lands pilot of the Canadian Highlander format, has several smashy EDH decks, from Sneak Attack to Kemba Ka Regent being literal Ka Blade, but he most commonly enjoys his Black-White Angels deck, led by Liesa. Couldn't be torn apart with Wicked Angels by a nicer person, gotta say. And I also want to shout out Nelson, who rocks an OG Gonti list that really made me smile, because the last time I got to play against him, he was just so eager and giddy about getting to play this deck. Although he said for the future, he might spruce up the Nelly Borka precon and make that his go-to, because, I mean, it's Coach Nelly playing Nelly. There are, of course, many more folks in the Loading Ready Run crew. I've obviously only scratched the surface. They're such wholesome and awesome folks. Big hugs to you all. Moving on, since I'm already talking about creators outside of the US, have y'all seen Quintessential Commander yet? Ezzy's channel is amazing. The games are awesome. The editing makes them so easy to follow, and the special touches and flourishes he uses are very classy. Ezzy plays a super cool Mardu Marchesa deck, which I've had the pleasure of playing against on camera. Definitely check that game out. It's so delightfully tricky, full of things you'd never expect, and Ezzy's a real whiz with his games. I'll jump from Ezzy to Voxy, who has crabs.
Hello, everybody. My name is Voxy, and I have crabs.
Okay, but no, for real. As much of a meme moment that was, I understand Voxy's favorite deck to be her beloved Prosh Skyraider of Care, her first commander ever. And what a deck! She isn't doing food chain combo or anything with Prosh, she's just making tokens. Tokens everywhere. Honorable mention though, since Voxy played my mom's flying deck on a Shuffle Up and Play episode, whenever we run into each other, she usually asks, hey, when can I get a rematch playing your mom's deck again? Hopefully someday soon, Voxy. Now on to Sam from Rhystic Studies, the kind of dude who honestly makes me say I want to be him when I grow up, even though I'm fully in my 30s. I've had the good fortune to connect with Sam over our mutual love of the Mimeoplasm. He took his list in a reduce, reuse, recycle direction, as in it's literally a cycling deck using tons of interesting Amonkhet cards. Sam's a total class act, and I like his taste in commanders just as much as I like his videos. Next, the One More Mana crew of Ced, Ken, and Derek, the all-time most hilarious trio of dudes you will ever meet in Magic. You may have seen Ced pilot Geralf, Visionary Stitcher, on a fantastic Extra Turns episode where he's not using zombies in the 99, but actually turning a bunch of walls into huge tokens. Ced's great at building decks that take a moment for other players to grok fully, and by the time that you realize what he's up to, you're already in deep trouble. Derek, meanwhile, told me he currently adores his Cedrus Trader King deck, which is really an excuse for him to combine all his favorite stuff from his old Feldon and Scarab God lists. And Ken, a true wildcard, pilots a super spicy Intet the Dreamer deck, which you may have also seen on Extra Turns, cheating wild stuff like Eldrazi into play. I've played against this thing a couple times, and it's already scary enough, but then he drops a bunch of clones to copy those big creatures too, and that's when you know you're in for it. Brilliant decks from all three of these guys. Okay, I've mentioned Extra Turns and Game Nights a couple times now, so let's get to the biggest part of the list, the Command Zone. A team of terrific creators, both in front of the camera and behind the scenes. We know the big ones. Josh Lee Kwai enjoys a great Rune Blink deck, and mad respect to it, but the deck he really made famous is of course the Tim deck, which taps and untaps and taps and untaps and taps and untaps and pings and pings and pings, and through it all will steal your stuff, death touch your creatures, and outpace the table with, what else? Value. Jimmy Wong is more of a wild card. I feel his decks really run the gamut, certainly leaning towards red, but he's referred to his Paco and Halden deck as his favorite deck he's ever built. Attack with Paco, fetch a whole bunch of things, and then Halden can help you cast them all later. A good mix of aggro and late game planning. We've also just seen Jimmy make Paco on its own into a truly terrifying attacker too. Paco's a really good boy, so he deserves all those extra counters. Good on ya. And Rachel Weeks, the cleverest builder I've ever met. I really admire Rachel's brews. She's got Octavia, and it's sick. She's got Mono White Mangara, definitely on brand. But her masterpiece has got to be Feldegriff and Karuga, the hippo companion pair that takes a very silly strategy and absolutely trounces the table with it. Here, have some 1/1s. Oh no, my gifts have murdered you. Whoops. The Happy Purple Hippo is an EDH delight. Some Command Zone alums to shout out to. We all know Ashlyn Rose for her colorless Kozilek deck. Lady Danger, lover of Golgari and Jund, adores her Korvold deck. And Mr. Infect, Craig Blanchett, has played Poison in tons of ways, but he told me his favorite right now is back to the old classic Saskia to help the damage trigger double up his Poison aggro. There are a ton more Command Zone folks, but I'll just shout out 3 more real quick. Murph, Jake Boss, and Damon Lenz, some real editing superstars here. Murph I know from making Dakon Blackblade a thing. This guy loves to make something unconventional, and it's amazing to see how he pulls it off. Jake Boss has said that his favorite deck is Arithmethes Slumbering Isle, a terrifying 12/12. Some folks will build this deck as a general sea monsters list, but Jake's version is all in on one-shotting people to win with commander damage. And I gotta shout out my boy Damon, who loves Azorius Value, and his current favorite is Renar the Everwatchful. I think a lot of people dismissed this commander when it first came out, but he showed us all on an Extra Turns episode how to really play this deck, and I cannot believe how many cards he drew with it. Really clever stuff, all of you. And of course, there are tons more great folks from the Command Zone team with even more great decks too. Okay, from one big channel to another, let's get to the prof. As tempted as I am to cut together a compilation of him saying the word merfolk over and over again, and believe me, I am tempted, one of his actual favorite decks to play turns out to be Brian Stoutarm, which he lovingly calls, "It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that fling." Shout out of course to his Thrun deck and his Scholar of Seas Unknown Event card. Shout out to everyone who's had one of those Unknown Event cards, obviously, and I think that card especially really captures his love of the fishy friend archetype, but I just can't ignore Brian's joy with Brian Stoutarm as he chucks a 40 power creature at somebody's face to deal 40 damage. It's just too awesome to behold. TappyToeClaws is next, and is there any question? She's a dino gal through and through. Gishath, red, dinos, go fast, eat people, rar. Also in Naya, Commander Advisory Group member Daquan Watson, aka PowrDragn, is best known for his streams and for his Color of Magic podcast, and he's on Magic Mics, but he plays a really great Rith the Awakener deck in EDH. This is such a classic commander, and the token production is legit. Always a joy to play against, and Daquan has got to be one of, if not the most hardworking dudes I've ever met in the Magic creator space. Give him a follow if you haven't already. Chase, aka ManaCurves, is next, and the list I'll shout out for them here is an Oops All Chandras deck that they call Redhead Aggro. This deck is devoted to playing all the Chandras, which sounds like a silly restriction, but honestly, it slaps. I've seen Chase copy the ult of a Chandra like 3 times and just utterly demolish the rest of the table with it. It's a sweet, sweet list. Moving on, if you haven't had the pleasure of meeting Family the Gathering yet, definitely check them out. Ozzy, Alyssa, Stella, and Bo are the friendliest folks you'll meet, and they're so dang supportive, helping to teach kids how to play Magic at conventions. My whole family plays Magic too, so I really admire the work they all do. You'll most commonly find Ozzy rocking a Clouth deck to make tons of extra mana. Alyssa also does dragons, but in Dimir with Savitri as her main leader. Stella tears up a field with Zakama, and not to be outdone, Bo goes wild with a Vorinclex monstrous Raider. These are some spicy signature decks, you guys. And in case you're watching, big hugs to you all. Can't wait to see you at the next convention. Taalia Vess, a well-known streamer and independent creator. She's worked with Whatnot, she does cosplay, and she has a pretty phenomenal Zayatora list to keep an eye on. It makes big things, it flings big things, and then it makes a ton of treasures, but it will also deal damage with those treasures too. It's a fantastic and deliciously dangerous deck to behold. I'll go next to one of the first EDH YouTubers I ever watched, and that's MTG Muddstah, a truly prolific purveyor of Commander gameplay. There are a lot of potential lists that could be called Muddstah's signature deck, from Mistform Ultimus to Ramos Mutate, but when I chatted with him, it seems we both think of Trostani as one of the decks that he's most associated with. Tokens and life gain and tokens. A classic Commander and a classic Commander channel. Are y'all familiar with Dan Sheehan's new show Pie Break? He used to coast Commander Sphere with Rachel Weeks, but now he interviews people, including yours truly on one episode, about their non-Magic hobbies and where those hobbies would fall if they were in the Magic color pie. I have fallen on the floor laughing listening to his show. He's an absolute riot. Give his podcast a listen if you haven't already. And know also that his favorite deck is an Atog, which sincerely plays as many Atogs as he can to just make one very big Atog. I'll also shout out another potential deck that he's known for too, though. He's the mastermind behind I Am Not a Wolf and that Secret Lair. Like, that's him drawn on a Magic card right there. So if you make a Tovolar deck with that altar, that's something you might know Dan for too. Dan's also good buddies with a mutual friend and comedian Mike Carosa, whose show I also want to shout out. He wrote the column Am I the Bolus on Commander's Herald, and now has a podcast called Am I the Bolcast, where he interviews folks about tricky social situations that can come up in Magic games and how to navigate them without becoming the bolus at the table. It's very enjoyable, and when I asked for his signature list, he instantly was like, oh, it's gotta be Lysolda the Blood Witch, which he spent years blinging out too. Rakdos Aristocrats? Carosa? I approve. Although, it might make you the bolus. Anna Margaret, are you watching her YouTube channel next? You should. She's a real jack of all trades. From teaching to cosplay, she's a phenomenal singer. You might have seen her playing D&D at a recent DreamHack, and she's a physicist. I actually can't pick between two signature decks for Anna Margaret. Her Giada Angels deck is a masterwork, but I also love playing against her Ginny Fae deck too, where suddenly it's literally raining cat and dog tokens all over the board. Either way, Anna is a joy to have at the table, a joy to play against, and a joy to laugh along with. Since I mentioned cosplay, our buddy Orlando, aka TeferiMagic, he's a phenomenal performer and has a phenomenal Sidar Jabari deck, which is of course filled with a bunch of Teferi action. He's also a huge Lord of the Rings buff too. You can check out one of our past Lord of the Rings episodes if you want to hear him discuss it. Really wise dude, and in a game he's always got an interesting trick up his sleeve. Next, you may have seen one Daniel Holt on a couple gameplay episodes around the internet, and I've interviewed him on this channel too. He's one of the creative minds behind some of your favorite EDH precons, and he's a big reason that Kamigawa Neon Dynasty even got made. So I want to shout him out. He has a deck for Heroes of Kamigawa, one of those Heroes of the Realm cards, which you may see him play at events if you run into him. Daniel's a very kind and playful soul, and he almost exclusively builds Kamigawa legends, so this deck is a really great way for him to show his love of the game that he gets to help steward. I'd like to next shout out Megan from InfiniTokens. You know those dry erase tokens? Yeah, that's her. A really rad product from a really rad person. And she slings a Jared Carthalion deck that she likes to call the Island of Misfit Tokens, full of cards that make really weird tokens, which means she'll get to draw a ton of silly things on those InfiniTokens during games. Megan's a joy to play against, and those tokens seriously help me keep a lot of things on my board straight, so thank you so much for making InfiniTokens, Megan. DJ Jumbo Commander, you're up. I know you have like 30 decks, man, but the one I know you most for is Blue Braids. Will and Rowan too, to be honest, but especially Braids. Helping everyone cheat wild stuff into play, but making sure you'll be able to keep their big stuff in check. It's bold, the kind of strategy a lot of people would shy away from, but that just makes it 10 times cooler when someone's willing to take that kind of leap. Alright, now let's feed some spikes. Alex and Jim from the Spike Feeders, and Jim of course from the Rules Committee, play a lot of CEDH, but ironically they're each probably best known for their non-competitive EDH decks. Alex plays a very social Kelsey and the Plague deck that he calls Would You Like to Ping the One? And Jim has an Aether Lich deck that absolutely boggles the mind. It's bizarre to see it go off, and to witness the many ways he manages to stay alive even when he's at 0 life. Lexi, aka BlackGirlMage, is probably better known for her terrific D&D work. She's done a whole bunch of actual plays, including an entire Strixhaven campaign called Strix U. The crossover is real. She's also a brilliant singer, a total wit, and she's definitely famous for some Essex Quandrix shenanigans. But I also love playing against her Eowyn Shield Maiden deck too. I can't pick between them. I guess you'll just have to go give her a follow so that you can make up your mind about which one of these decks is the winner. After that, let's highlight some awesome Magic streamers. Amy the Amazonian can often be found brawling in Arena, especially known for a Bolus Crimes deck on there, but when she enters the Commander stage, she's usually monkeying around with who else but Ragavan. Amy's another one of those folks who has made me fall on the floor laughing. She is explosively hilarious. I cannot wait to play against her again, even if it means her Commander's going to be stealing a bunch of my stuff. Kenji Egashira, aka Numat the Nummy. But listen, it's Numat. I know he plays other stuff in Commander too, but it's Numat the Nummy. I can't not pick Numat for Numat. And CGB, the one and best of one with his own EDH gameplay called The Worst Possible Commander Show. CovertGoBlue has tons of decks, so it's honestly kind of hard to choose, but when the subject of favorite decks comes up, he usually talks about Chromium the Mutable, an Esper Flash control deck with all the classic things we expect from CGB gameplay. Lots of in responses and on your end steps, and before that resolves, gotta love it. You remember that Ashiok cosplay that took the internet by storm? And also that epic Elish Norn? Evan, aka DarkPactCosplay, can turn a look like nobody's business, and can also turn your life total to 0 with their Witch King of Angmar deck, complete with tons of Nazgul. I've had some true nail-biter games playing against this deck. Evan's an absolute they-them causing mayhem. Joe Johnson from TableTopJocks is next, and you already know his favorite, it's Samut, Voice of Dissent. Joe packs a lot of punch in his Commander decks, and this is no exception. This deck is like all punch, and his current list is playing almost 60 creatures. That's real commitment. I really hope Samut doesn't set her sights on me first when we start to play, because if she does, I don't think I'm long for that game. Let's throw it now to the Goldfish crew. Tomer builds a lot of budget decks, and we all know that he loves Kaldra, but he's most well known for his Changelings deck, which uses Ur-Dragon at the helm, but is actually mostly about manipulating creature lords with a bunch of creatures that share all creature types. It may sound at first like it's just a cute idea, but it's not cute. This deck pops off. It's very dangerous. Krim, meanwhile, is our resident Grixis baddie, and when I asked him his current favorite commander deck, he said he's really been enjoying Goro Goro and Satoru, which leans into a tempo/control and hyper aggro that he just loves. This deck will make an absolute glut of dragon tokens, while of course also allowing him to control the board. And I've said it before, but I love that Krim will also own when he's the problem. No one plays as good an archenemy as Krim does. And then of course there's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, who's classically a fan of Panharmonicon. I understand he's transitioned a deck from Brago and from Yarok, which were a little overbearing for his tastes, and turned those into Fibblethip the Lost, which allows him to blink for value and find other neat ways of doubling enters the battlefield triggers. Gotta hand it to him too, Saffron's known for his weird pronunciations of magic cards, so it's kind of chef's kiss that his main EDH deck would be led by a commander called Fibblethip. From Goldfish, we go to Playing with Power, a CEDH channel. From what I hear, Godo doesn't currently see as much play in CEDH anymore, but Ryan from Playing with Power is well known for his take on Godo combo, though I hear he likes World Gorger Dragon loops too. And Higher from Playing with Power favors a Kinnan deck, a version called Big Flips. There's of course a substantial amount of gameplay on their channel if you want to see these in action. At events and conventions, you may have encountered a group called the Birds of Paradise, a revolving collective of players and creators that highlights folks from marginalized communities. Bobby Christine helped to found this group, and she's also a writer for Tolarian Community College, fun fact, and you might spot her playing her signature deck, Kadira the Small, at events all over. Katie Karlov, also a founder of this group, plays a lot of big scary commanders, from Toxrill to Tiamat, but I most know her for her Koma Cosmos Serpent list, which is full of tons of huge sea monsters. To briefly shout out two other Birds of Paradise members, Mel the Maneater does some cosplay, and rocks Faldorn, and honestly, find you a person who looks at you the way that Mel looks at her Faldorn list. And Giraffinat, who also cosplays, is brilliant with an Umbrous Horrors deck, although she said that lately one of her favorite commanders to play has been Commodore Guff, so her signature deck may change in the future, who knows. Kurohisuki, who you may have seen streaming on Twitch or on Shuffle Up and Play, rocks a ton of high-power EDH decks, but Aragorn, King of Gondor, we gotta give him his flowers. You should see this man in a crown, this is his signature deck through and through. Rebell, Commander Advisory Group member, YouTuber, and best known for a Sisei Gigantha CEDH deck. Rebell has a video breaking this deck down and highlighting a deck designer named Malcolm who inspired Rebell to build Sisei in the first place, which I'll link to in the description below in addition to the deck list. And to describe how this deck works will take more time than I have, so yeah, definitely give that video a look if you want the details. Alec hosts the Faerie Conclave podcast, a very pleasant deck tech interview series, which I've been on, plug, and if you've played against him, you've probably seen his Satoru Ninja Demons deck. Demons can be expensive, but cheating them into play with ninjutsu makes them a lot more wicked. I think of this as Alec's signature list, but I personally also want to shout out his Myojin of Blooming Dawn deck too, which is the kind of commander that most people wouldn't ever think to put in the command zone, but boy does Alec make it work. Very cool lists. I'll shout out these next two together, Princess Weeks and Jeremy Knoll. Not because they collaborate, but because whenever we're at events, the three of us will chat about musicals for forever. Princess you'll recognize from Shuffle Up and Play, from PBS, and from her own comprehensive media analysis YouTube channel, but she's got a video about her favorite decks, and she named Mayal the Anima as her favorite, just putting a ton of wild creatures into play. And Jeremy Knoll is known for many things, but I think right now I'd call his signature list his Teshar deck, which combos off historically. As in literally historically, because the cards are historic. Does explaining this joke make it funnier? No? Moving on. Bennie Smith is one of the OG EDH writers. I can't leave him out. He helped lay a lot of groundwork. Grothama is his current baby, the gnarly mono-green worm that has so many wild tricks to it. Chef's kiss. This is so rad. Nexie threw me for a loop. I thought her signature deck would be Skrelv because she has a Skrelv tattoo, look at his teeths, but actually her favorite deck to play is Grist, the Hunger Tide. But hey, in either case, her decks are sure to bug you. Okay, that was bad. I really need to be done. Shout out to Michael Kritz, lover of all things Rakdos, and also D&D. I'm gonna give it up to his Kalane deck that he led to victory on game nights. Spoiler alert for a several years old video, I suppose, sorry. But yeah, he's got Felisa, he's got Croxa. I think whenever this guy's wielding one of those decks, I just cower in fear. He's really dang good with them. Next is Spice 8-Rack. Listen, as much as I associate Spice's manic energy with like goblins, or as much as I'd love to meme and choose a cat commander as an ode to Spice's Cats movie review video, which is one of the top 10 funniest videos on the internet, when Spice was on a Shuffle Up and Play episode where Prof asked them to bring their favorite decks, the pick was Noyan Dar, who animates lands and causes a real ruckus, to be honest. And also on that episode was, of course, Shivam Bhatt, who loves things like Tajik and Jeddido Jonin, but his pride and joy is Grimgrin, a Dimir zombie deck who means business. Grimgrin's one of those decks where you read it and your first thought is, that seems complicated, I don't know. And then you play against it and you realize the thing that's actually complicated is, how do I fend this thing off? It's a beating. Okay, now let's get to some creator duos. Megan and Maria from Good Luck High Five don't play a ton of Commander, but when they do, they adapt to their favorite styles from other formats. Maria loves Boggles decks, for example, so she made a Ural the Miststalker deck which really captures the essence of that strategy. Megan just wants to cast Treasure Cruises, she loves that kind of free value, and when she consulted her patrons about what deck to build, they led her towards Narset Enlightened Master, who is very good at free value, as it turns out. A lot of card for card, as Good Luck High Five would say. You can see them play these decks on their channel, though I'll note that I'm not sure how long Megan will keep the Narset deck. It seems likely she'll switch it over to something else in the future. Ryan and Brando from Commander Cookout are next. Brando bowls a table over with his Norrin the Wary deck. Whenever anything happens, Norrin's popping in and out of play, followed by a seriously bonkers chain of leaving and entering the battlefield triggers. Ryan, meanwhile, rocks a Child of Alara lands deck, a 5-color landfall extravaganza with 68 lands and even an ad nauseum in the main board. Dangerous stuff from both of the Cookout guys. Playing against them is a real whirlwind adventure. Jake and Joel Are Magic cover a lot of aspects of the Magic the Gathering game, including some finance stuff if you're trying to save money on your cards, and I'd say that their signature decks are Carador and Dihada, respectively. Carador for classic graveyard stuff, and as a necromancer myself, I approve, and Dihada is a fun one. Joel actually asks the table if he can rule 0 the Grixis Dihada into that deck too, because he just enjoys Dihada so much. Then there's Scrybabies. Lua Stardust and Tori of the Vast have a gameplay channel with some real wacky brews. I know Lua most for her 5-color Mike and 11 deck, which is full of D&D monsters to evoke the feeling that perhaps you're at one of Mike's D&D sessions, and Tori of the Vast's favorite deck is, well, Taalia of the Vast. It's right there in the name. That's just good branding. Nitpicking Nerds are next. Mia has said that her favorite commander is Taalia, and Beezy's got a bunch of love for Carador Ghost Chieftain, and uh-oh, you guys. We've already seen 2 other creators with each of those legends as their signature favorites too. You may have to duke it out to see which Dark Magician player gets to keep the title and which one goes to the Shadow Realm. But in all seriousness, yeah, these commanders are some of the first to sweep us all into the EDH format. It's no wonder that there's some overlap. And out of 100 people we're looking at, there are only 2 overlaps, 3 if you count Tomer and Brian both using the Dragon, even though they use them in completely different ways. Honestly, you'd expect it to be way higher, right? This community is very unique, and honestly, that's pretty rad. Another duo, Jen and Donnie, are the Filthy Casuals. They're local friends here in the Pacific Northwest, they stream, they're a hoot, and they're unbelievably kind. Jen will always help you out with her Glunch Money deck, but of course there's plenty of room for politicking if you help her out too. And Donnie's got a fantastic Darien King of Kieldor deck, where dealing damage to yourself begets more tokens, and then he turns those tokens into life gain, and that life gain into unstoppable win cons. Filthy Casuals indeed, you guys. These decks are up to some really cool stuff. Lenny and Bert host Coast to Coast Commander, and both also write for EDHREC. Bert has a few decks that I'd choose from. I know him most for his Elegith Psioni deck, which draws a bunch of cards and then punches you with a bunch of flyers pumped up by his hand size, but he said that his favorite is probably his Timna and Ikrashadiki Lifegain deck, which is maddeningly efficient. Lenny also has some truly inspired brews, another really creative mind, and I'm torn on giving the pick to either his Urza Gumball deck, in which every card in the 99 has to cost less than a quarter, or his Linvala Flyers deck, which he said was actually inspired by my mom's flying deck, which just melted my heart. And like, honestly, his deck is so cool, just playing a bunch of beaters and then you have Linvala constantly keeping everything alive and coming back over and over again to maintain your board state. It's a cool deck, dude. If you're not listening to the Legendary Creature podcast yet, get on that. Andy and Kyle really get into the weeds and give each episode the time it really takes to dive deep into a subject. Kyle's best known for his Erebus deck, a mono-black list full of enchantments that will obliterate you, and Andy's favorite thing in Magic is often a red-blue tempo playstyle. So his favorite deck is therefore Niv Mizzet Perun, but I'd also say he's probably well known for his Nezahal Voltron deck, which is an especially original concept that you wouldn't expect to be quite as good as it is. For both Erebos and for Nezi, it's another one of those cases where you don't realize the danger that you're in until it's far too late to stop them. Dylan and Cam from Play to Win, a CEDH channel, they told me that Dylan's favorite deck is definitely a Tana and Timna Bloodpod list, a classic of the CEDH genre. Cam is likely most well known for his Jeskai Ishai CEDH Storm list, which has inspired a lot of folks to get into competitive EDH, but he reported that the deck he's currently enjoying the most is Kenrith, and that's been his go-to commander for a while now. I appreciate balance between good old standbys and innovation, as well as just finding room for cards that you enjoy in those competitive-leaning decks. Kes Wiley and Ben Bateman from the MMCast. Listen, I know Kes has a wide range of decks that he enjoys in Commander, but it's Kes. I associate Kes with Kes, Dissident Mage, every time, all day. I can't not, I'm sorry. And I've seen Ben pilot his Galazeth Prismari deck with much gusto and aplomb. Stephanie, aka Quad9s, is one of the most charming folks you'll ever meet and loves herself a Magda deck, specifically a Magda 7 Dwarves deck, mining tons of treasure, cheating out dragons, and altogether creating a board state that can get really out of control. Quad9s isn't just her handle, it's also a good way to describe the amount of damage that she's going to deal to close out that game. Angelo Guerrera, aka the Jess Guy, is a fabulous writer for EDHREC and a truly good-natured soul. His pride and joy in Magic is an Innistrad cube that has been very carefully pieced together over the years. But in Commander, what does the Jess Guy play? Well, ironically, his signature deck is mono green, Yeva Nature's Herald. Come on, the Jess Guy, how come your signature deck isn't a Jess Guy deck? Okay, well actually, that said, Yeva actually does allow him to do all the things that you would expect from a Jess Guy deck. The flash effects, the amount of draw, the bizarre lines that it opens up. This deck is mortifyingly good and monstrously tricky, so it actually is perfectly on brand for his type of craziness. Chris is your commander mechanic, whom you may have seen playing a deck called Too Many Gyrudas. When it hits the field, it mills and finds an even cost card to put into play, which often means one of Chris's clones, which then gets that Gyruda trigger again, which usually means another clone, and then another and another. With a chain of graveyard filling triggers and a wall of Krakens, this deck will take over a board in no time. Kyle Hill, award-winning science educator and entertainer and self-proclaimed dollar store Thor, plays a lot of high-power EDH decks. He's a man of many varied tastes, so I don't think he's picked any single deck as his Blue Eyes White Dragon, but I'll say that I personally associate him most with a Blue Eyes White Wagon. That is his Shorokai deck from Shuffle Up and Play. He's also got decks like Go Shintai and Najila, tons of high-power stuff. I'm not certain which deck he plays the most often these days, I just know that this deck stands out in my memory. Although I'm probably biased because Prof forced me to play that deck in that episode. Ash Lizzle, a Game Nights Live winner, is mostly an Arena and Magic Online player, but her first EDH deck was Gisa Hellraiser, as seen on things like Shuffle Up and Play. Graveyards? Crimes? Zombies? I'm 100% on board with this. Veggie Wagon is one of the wildest players I've ever faced in a game. His decks absolutely throw you for a loop. It's hard to narrow down to just one signature deck here, but I think I'd say his most well-known deck is his Rocco Tempting Worm list, where he's tutoring out a Tempting Worm to completely change the battlefield. Yeah, Veggie's definitely decked out to instill a little chaos into just about any game. Not just because those kinds of cards are fun and make for great memories, but because he's prepped his deck to be a little bit more equipped for the chaos than his opponents are. And that's a really unique angle of attack that a lot of players just aren't ready for. Mental Misplay is next. Alan is one prolific dude, always on the grind at conventions and Magic Fests. This guy's a workhorse. When I asked him about signature decks, he said he's probably best known for the Atalis. He'll even lend out the mono-red Atali to folks if they don't have a casual deck to play in a pod. Flipping crazy cards off of the top of everyone's deck, producing some wild board states from out of nowhere? Yeah, that sounds like the Mental Misplay fella I know. And finally, the last one, number 100, Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast itself. I know Gavin has a Mariki Barrett deck that he's talked about before, but honestly, Gavin's favorite deck to play is, most often, your deck. As in, he loves to travel and to meet people and asks to borrow one of their decks to play in a game, so that he can see firsthand how other people interpret and experience Magic. A creative dude whose favorite deck is whatever your favorite deck is? Cheers to that. Whew. That was a lot. 100 people, 100 decks. Overall, I'm so delighted at the novelty and the creativity that's on display with all these various creators. There's such a dynamic range of tastes and strategies and cleverness, from wild experiments to good old classics. And like I said before, there are definitely people I missed. So again, sound off in the comments below about any other folks whose EDH decks you really enjoy. To be honest, after contacting so many people and researching various creators' lists, I'm even more intrigued now by what causes a deck to become your signature list, and the differences between decks that we're known for and the decks that we most enjoy. It's a topic that, honestly, we might have to dig into in a future video on this channel, so keep your eyes peeled for that and subscribe so that you don't miss it. Y'all are fluent in YouTube, you know the drill. For now, though, we're going to shut this down. I hope you've enjoyed this brief tour through some of your favorite creators' favorite decks. A big final thank you to everyone who helped me out with researching for this video, for answering my weird questions about signature lists and whatnot. And of course, a big thank you to you for watching. And until next time, remember, EDHREC your deck before you wreck your deck.